Hi, I'm Courtney.
Hi, I'm Bianca.
Hi, I'm Jenna.
And
And
we're here to talk about
pedagogical documentation.
Pedagogical documentation. Pedagogical documentation is a process that is used by educators to visualize children's learning through observing, sharing, and reflecting. It is how we understand why and how children learn and how we can support them going forward within their development.
Why is it useful? Because it makes children's development and learning more visible and captures their learning process. Because it supports reflective thinking within our teaching skills. Because it encourages children as they feel valued when seeing their work being documented.
What makes it pedagogical? It helps us to connect curriculum and pedagogy as it helps show how the educator is supporting children's development. Shows the perspective of multiple angles, children's thinking, educators' interpretation, and even families' feedback. Not only is it recording children's learning, but it interprets it.
How do we make it high quality? In order to make pedagogical documentation high quality, we go in with intentions of what we are looking for when observing, while not interrupting and purely listening. Make connections to other learning theories like Piaget and Vygotsky. Include text from the child like direct quotes or photos of their work. After observing, reflect.
The adult is using the guide from Piaget's conversation tasks and involving quantity and volume within this observation. Effective communication. This video showed the effectiveness of the child's reasoning in a cognitive manner, along with reasoning. The questions that were asked were answered clearly and were structured well by the child. While the adult is asking the questions, they were able to remain neutral and were also able to ask questions that were open-ended and yes or no questions. This way, the child led themselves and did not have the adult lead for them. This shows that the child's stage was in Piaget's pre-operational period, meaning that they did not yet understand conversations and focused more so on visual cues versus logical reasoning. However, the child's verbal expressions and responses are very clearly captured within this observation. How this demonstrates effective communication. When the child and adult interacted, it was very clear that the adult communicates with the child effectively in an age-appropriate way, using simple vocabulary, and is supportive of the child's responses by listening carefully and not interrupting or correcting the child. Nonverbal cues were also used during this time as the child and adult showed that they were using facial expressions, body language by pointing, which supports their understanding.
Observation 2. This video displays 4-year-old Joanna, a dual language learner who participates in dramatic play with her two peers and educator. The children use a stethoscope to listen to each other's heartbeats, engaging in imaginative play. The educator facilitates Joanna's inclusion by guiding her interactions with peers who primarily speak English. Effective communication. The documentation effectively displays the children's verbal and nonverbal communication during the play. Joanna's attempts to engage in the activity despite language barriers are evident. The educator's supportive role in facilitating inclusion and communication is also highlighted, as this video displays clear insights into the children's social interactions and the educator's methods to promote language development and peer relationships. How this demonstrates effective communication. This video demonstrates the children's use of language in a social context, which showcases their developing communication skills. Joanna's participation with her educator's support displays how educators can scaffold language development in a diverse classroom. The documentation also reflects the importance of inclusive practices in early childhood education, which ensures each child has opportunities to engage and communicate effectively. This analysis aligns with Piaget's pre-operational stage, where children engage in symbolic play and use language to represent objects and experiences. This video provides a clear example of how children in this stage interact and communicate in a social setting.
Observation 3. This video shows Cameron and Alexis, two preschoolers, interacting during block play. At first, they play side by side rather than together. Cameron uses his toy lion to knock over parts of Alexis's block structure. Alexis responds verbally, telling him, "Stop," and "I don't like it," in an attempt to set boundaries. When Cameron continues, Alexis seeks help from the educator, saying, "He's messing up my blocks." The educator, Mrs. Marshall, guides Alexis to use her voice to communicate directly with Cameron. Alexis follows this guidance and says, "I did not like you messing up my blocks." This assertive statement helps to resolve the conflict. Alexis then picks up a lion toy similar to Cameron's, and the two begin to play together. Their interaction shifts from conflict to cooperative play, using both the lion toys and blocks to build and engage collaboratively. The educator remains supportive in the background, stepping in only when necessary to encourage positive communication. Effective communication. The documentation shows how Alexis uses both verbal communication and problem-solving strategies to express her feelings and needs. She tells Cameron directly, "Stop," and "I don't like it," when he disrupts her block play. When this doesn't work, she seeks support from her teacher. The educator encourages Alexis to use her own voice to address the issue. "Tell him you didn't like that." Alexis then communicates assertively, "I did not like you messing up my blocks." As the play progresses, both children shift from conflict to cooperation. Alexis picks up a lion toy, like Cameron's, which helps bridge their interaction. They begin to engage in shared block play, using both verbal exchanges and nonverbal gestures, such as positioning blocks and moving the lion toys together, to build a positive play experience. How this demonstrates effective communication. This video demonstrates effective communication by showing how children can use words to express their emotions, set boundaries, and work through social challenges. The educator's support helps Alexis develop self-advocacy skills and practice respectful, assertive language. The shift from conflict to joint play highlights how verbal and nonverbal communication help build peer relationships. The children's use of shared toys and collaborative gestures show how communication can move beyond words to include actions that foster cooperation and connection. This documentation makes visible the learning that occurs through social interaction, problem solving, and educator guidance.
Conclusion. Therefore, pedagogical documentation is important to make children's development and learning more visible. Notice what areas we can offer more support and truly listen to children and what they have to say.